I feel very like Margaret Atwood bringing up my purse, but so I am in a very interesting world. Not only am I in tech, but also in sports. Now, for any of you who maybe don't work in tech currently, this summer was kind of interesting for how women are treated. And I would like to say it's not that much better in sports. So my mission is, if I'm the only woman in the room, I've done wrong. And everywhere I go to speak, I talk about women's sports. I also talk about women being founders and being aggressive and having these characteristics of startup founders that a lot of males have. And I don't think it has to be that way with women. So I originally really just wanted to have a couple nice points and to have this feel-good story and rah-rah, go sports tech. But we had a really interesting weekend. I don't know how many people I work in hockey, so how many are NHL fans? Anyone? Cheers. How about NBA? Steph Curry, Del Curry played for the Toronto Raptors, so there's Canadian content there. And obviously LeBron James even stood up for Steph Curry, so the Cavaliers and Golden State fans were united on something. So it was a really big weekend because ESPN about a week ago said, we don't want to really hear political, we don't want to hear diversity or issues, and that completely changed. And I feel like it's very relevant to in tech. So I really like this tweet, and it kind of, struck a chord with me that you can see I not only favorited it, I also retweeted it. And 40,000 people liked it before I even screenshotted it. So the nerds are complaining about women in tech, and the jocks are the face of social change. What a world. And what a room to actually pick up that baton that's happening in sports right now and changing diversity in tech. As you know, Toronto is an amazing place to operate out of. We have, some great developers. And part of me taking this talk was that we're actually recruiting more. So anyone who's interested in working in sports tech, especially hockey, send your resumes or CVs to careers@stathletes.com. And we welcome anyone, women, especially if you're in the room with any sort of technical background from Waterloo, please. And I think it's just really important to have that conversation. So even though some people disagree, and maybe even some men disagree about whether it's Google engineers or we can't be leaders in tech, I think just having that discussion is extremely important in seeing more women face and having us more comfortable in the boardroom. So I have only 2 things that I want you to do. And this first one is kind of from LeBron. Today he talked about sticking up for Steph Curry, and he said, if the stars in the NBA can stand and talk for what we believe in, I feel like everyone else would be comfortable. So how many people in the room are co-founders, CEOs, VCs? So you have the power and the platform to change your company culture, to have hiring decisions, to take that one woman that maybe is 1 or 2 CV points away and saying, you know what, I'll give you an interview, because those interviews make women better or make diversity, people that don't usually have that chance, better. Take on that mentee that doesn't look like you. Before I worked at a Fortune 500 company, extremely male dominated, and there was one guy from, you'll know exactly what the company is if I say where it was, but Moline, Illinois, that reached out to me, and he just sent me an email every month just checking in. Is there any way I can help progress you in this company? Any questions? And it was I never even met him, but it really helped improve my confidence and made me the startup co-founder I am today. And I think we have our head count is at 65, 70-ish. So we have a lot of people that we impact and that we employ. Now, number 2 is another thing very close to my heart, and this one's kind of lofty, but in that sense, tell stories worthy of the Economist obituaries. I'm sick of hearing how I looked. I didn't even brush my hair today, I didn't put on makeup, I didn't even wash my dress. And that was on purpose, because I think the more you fixate on the way you look or who you are on the outside, the less you develop who you are on the inside. If you Google my name, my top hits are about how I look, my brother, my partner, my golf swing, which is pretty great, I won't lie. But if I ever end up in the Economist, that would not be what people were talking about. And a really funny story was, I had this opportunity to do this media work, and I went for a guy who actually, he's an amazing broadcaster, and he did the NBC last Olympics, just a great guy. And we were sitting down and talking about how to approach media interviews and when they ask really tough questions that they want to stump you on. You know, they want to know who our clients are, what are our competitive advantage, something they can, you know, spin negatively. And he looked at me and he's like, well, you know, don't make it too complicated. It's not like you're an economist. And I was so taken aback, because usually it's like rocket scientist, neurosurgeon. And I'm like, actually, that's my specialty. But, you know, I can do any sort of demand curve you want. So I think just don't suppose in any of these women. I mean, I see, you know, incredible amount of faces of women here. Go up and ask them what their background is, what their aspirations are, how your company can help, especially if you have money. You know, reach out as a VC to more women and have those touch points. I think those are incredibly important conversations that we don't have enough. And even walking into this room, I don't think very many people suppose I'd be speaking, which is fine, but I really want to see that change. So my 2 points. Number one, if you have a platform, if you are a co-founder, speak up. Speak up to your company, speak up when there are issues. You know, don't be quiet on this anymore. It's just not worth it, and we'll never progress if we do. And I think your company will be better to have diversity, because women spend a lot of money. I do. And number 2, definitely, you know, talk on the radio about the stories you want to hear. Talk to newspapers about women in your company. It's incredibly important to get out some of our wins and to not be as humble as we have been in the past. Be a little self-indulgent, because men definitely are. Thank you.
All right, so we can take a few questions. One I just want to throw quickly. So obviously, for people that don't know, your brother is, you know, GM of the Phoenix Coyotes. Both of you, of course, anything you say or do will get media spin. So how has that changed the way that you communicate in some of these interviews, or, you know, anything that, obviously things can be taken out of context? Like, how does that change your communication style?
Totally. I mean, I think you want to be really positive, especially about anything you say to media, and know they can clip what you say. But, you know, if you do have a bigger platform, just understand what their angle is. And I think one of the best tips I've ever got is, regardless of what they ask you, say what you want to be published. So they can be like, oh, what about your client? Well, I don't really talk about my clients in the NHL, but do you want to hear about the one women's hockey pilot project we did at Clarkson that went well? You know, that's what they have to take, right? So I think you can direct the media as much as they can come at you.
Other questions?
As a woman in tech, what do you think has been your biggest struggle throughout your career?
Maybe people almost wanting you to be overqualified. I mean, I went through a lot of university degrees. I still get people saying, oh, maybe you should go to law school, or maybe you should do this. I think it's being comfortable about where your direction is, and really, I don't want to say lean in, because that's so typical, but, you know, kind of put the blinders on if you keep hitting your targets, and don't let anybody from the outside really influence your direction if you're progressing at what you want.
So there's a real grassroots problem in that we don't have enough women in tech. So what would you say to those in authority, governmental authority, what would you encourage them to encourage more women in tech? What ideas do you propose?
Yeah, I think that's a hard question, because I think you go into universities, like even teaching at Rotman, I'd see a lot of really qualified women that would go into banking or consulting. They just felt a bit safer. There was those established programs. So I think for me, my mandate is just to keep going out and talking and making women comfortable that you can be up here and you can be bosses of men, and it's not shameful to be bossy. as a government, I think like Justin Trudeau is taking some, law students that are, having whatever, this for a day. Like there are programs, but I think maybe even just more funding interns at whether it's IRAP or OCE that are specific to either diversity or women. I think that could change a lot because at the end of the day, startups want to make money. So directing some of the funding into those sectors probably would, at least put out the feelers at universities to get more women into the pipeline. Or tax, whatever. But I think grants are even easier, right? Just an easier sell.
I'm not sure how big your workforce is, but how diverse is your group of employees and what are you doing to get women in the front door? If it's something you're passionate about and it's your company,
Right.
That's like what you have control over today, right?
Absolutely.
So I just wondered, how do you gear, your job descriptions, or how do you headhunt women? Because, I work in tech and I'm a huge sports fan.
Right.
And I'd happily join in, right? Like hypothetically, but I think a lot goes back to, they say take, all those references that reference sports, people are like, that's biased. So how do you approach hiring women?
I think it's difficult because you are constrained by the demographics. So layering tech onto sports, it's even a smaller group that you're dealing with. However, I've gone out, there was a Brock student that was, referenced to me from one of the professors. So as soon as a grant came up for her, and I know she had a great background for a type of internship, I called her first. So I think it's just about prioritizing where you can. And I really don't even think it's like putting the company's role last. I think just that diversity helps in general, brings a different outlook, reaches different people. Like I said, women's hockey is great at the Olympics. It's as much of a draw as a whole lot of other Olympic sports. So there are areas that we can move the dial even more. And I think just focusing on that and kind of chipping away at it. We have diversity in a lot of different areas of our workforce, but we could definitely improve, which is why I come to these type of talks where I do see a lot of women and kind of encourage them to apply to our careers, because I don't want to chase them down either, but happy to have interviews and have those conversations.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.